On its way, but we do have a quorum for the September 6th Site Plan Review Technical Advisory Committee. First order of business is the approval of the minutes from August 2nd, 2022. Do we have any edits or corrections?
I'll move to accept the minutes.
Motion?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Under old business, we have, first I want to acknowledge we have a request to postpone from 375 Banfield, and then also item D and E under new business for 212 Woodbury. They are postponing as well. Just note that for anyone here for those two. That brings us to item B. Actually, item B and C I'll read into the record together, and we'll take both of those up at the same time. The request of Port Harbor Land LLC, owner and applicant for property located at 2 Russell, requesting lot line revision approval to adjust the boundary lines on 3 lots to create 1 lot with 18,237 square feet of lot area, 1 lot with 52,651 square feet of lot area, and 1 lot with 19,141 square feet of lot area. Said properties are located on Assessor Map 118, Lot 28, Map 124, Lot 12, Map 125, Lot 21, and lie within the Character District 5, North End Incentive Overlay District, Historic District, and Downtown Overlay District. And item C is the same request for site plan approval for the construction of 84 residential units, commercial space, and parking in 3 buildings with associated community space, paving, utilities, landscaping, and other site improvements, including 3 proposed land transfers to allow for the realignment of the Russell Street and Deer Street intersection and for the city's future construction of a roundabout at Russell Street and Market Street. Land transfer area 1 is proposed from map 119, lot 4 to the city of Portsmouth. Land transfer areas 2 and 3 are from map 119, lot 1-1C to the city of Portsmouth. In addition, a conditional use permit to provide 343 parking spaces on separate lots where 341 spaces are required as permitted under section 10.1112.62 of the zoning ordinance, and conditional use permit to allow a 40,000 square foot building footprint within the CD5 as permitted under 10.5A 43.43 of the zoning ordinance. Said properties are located on map 118, lot 28, map 124, lot 12, map 125, lot 21, map 119, lot 4, and map 119, lot 1-C, and lie within the CD5, North End Overlay, Historic District, and Downtown Overlay District. All right. Who's here to present?
Thanks, Peter. Neil Hansen with Ty and Bond. To my left is Patrick Hermans, also from Ty and Bond, and to my right is Ryan Plummer from 2 International Group. So we did receive the staff comments you guys sent over on Friday. So I think we'll just start by going through all those and addressing them as we get to them. So first comment, replace the loading zone that is currently located between the buildings to designated loading zone areas along Russell Street and Deer Street. It is suggested that these new areas have time limit where they turn to regular parking spaces between the hours of 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. We don't have any issues with this. I think the one we had was we had proposed to have it signed for loading from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. So unless the city wants that 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., I think we'll probably keep the proposed 3-hour loading in the morning. I don't think that there's a need for anything beyond that for the project. 2 is provide clear signage for parking garage parking and access. So the rear drive aisle is signed as a private drive, and the garage access in the rear is going to be for residents only. So we don't really feel that additional signage is needed for that. I don't know if there's any further clarification of what the intent of this comment or what is being sought after with this, but we feel like we've signed the site for the parking needs adequately.
Where will the visitor parking be?
So the visitor parking will be on the first level parking, and any residents will need to provide their guests access to get to those spaces. There's no public parking on site. So it'll all be controlled either by the valet of the hotel or by the residents in the building. 3, add cobblestone channeling at intersection of Green and Deer Street. I guess, is this intended to be within the center line of Green Street? Is that the thought here? I don't think we have an issue with it. The comment was add cobblestone channeling at intersection of Green and Deer Street.
They don't meet.
That's what the comment says.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I don't know if they meant Green and Russell and putting cobbles in the center line of the road.
It was Green and Russell, right? Here?
It must be, yeah.
Probably a Nick comment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like-
I don't-
sounds like-
Sounds like a Nick comment.
Yeah,
Yes.
he'll be here in a minute, we can get, I'm sure that's what he meant, Green and Russell, but we'll
Okay.
clarify.
It was that intersection. I can't remember what the cobbles were supposed to do.
Yeah, I don't know either. So, all right, well, we'll come back to that when he gets here then. Sidewalk shown through the CSX property must have written approval to be shown on plans. So I don't know if this is in reference to Green Street or Maplewood or both. But we do acknowledge that we will need coordination with the railroad on several items, and that came up multiple times. It was our understanding that at least the pedestrian connection on Green Street was something that the city's been wanting to do, which is why it's shown on the plans.
You are correct.
Okay, so we can remove it and then coordinate in the meantime and add it back during construction. We can leave it and include it as part of our coordination with the railroad, but that is the intent, that all of the railroad crossings and markings and signalization will need to be coordinated with them prior to construction.
Is that the one where I think the sidewalk was outside of the right-of-way?
Yeah, and the alignment of that is just extending the alignment of the sidewalk on Green Street, which is.
No, I think it was just a coordination thing that's
Yeah,
needed.
yeah, no, we agree. Please provide more detail for area around relocated train signal on Maplewood Ave. Similar to the previous comment, we'll have to coordinate that with the railroad. And just as a timing, construction, Building 1, which is the one on the corner of Maplewood and Deer Street, is currently planned to be the last of the 3 built. So there is some additional time there that we will have to coordinate with the railroad as far as signal location and that sort of thing before that building is actually constructed. And that existing signal needs to be moved. Please adjust and recalculate community space to exclude the Sheridan sign. That's fine, we can make that revision. It's a pretty small area on the corner there that sign is in. I guess the question back to the city would be, is that when that roundabout is constructed, is there going to be a desire to have that sign relocated at all? It doesn't currently conflict with that proposed sidewalk alignment, but that design is pretty preliminary in nature, so I didn't, I guess it's probably getting ahead of ourselves a little bit there, but just something to keep in mind, I guess. So 7, please include a 5-foot mountable sidewalk to the building side of the shared path between the buildings and the railroad for designated bike and pedestrian area. So comment 47 actually sort of contradicts with this and asks for either striping or pavers to delineate that area, and that is our preference, is to use flush pavers to delineate a separate pedestrian bike access. The design intent was to have this be similar to Chestnut Street, where it's all flush pavers, all shared access, and that when a car is accessing the garage, the pedestrians and the bikers would move over to let the car pass. Having that mountable raised area kind of defeats that purpose of having that large shared access area. On-site construction inspection required for everything in the right-of-way plus drainage. We acknowledge that. CMMP required. Site note number 21 lists this requirement, so that's already noted on the plans. Comment 10, confirm building footing is lower than city sewer line near Maplewood. So I don't know about the depths of the footings at this time. I don't even know if they've been designed or not. The sewer there is very deep. The invert into that structure is at 0.5, and the finished floor of building 1's at 17. So I'm assuming that's just something that will need to be taken into account when the building foundation's designed. Construction, catch basin inlet protection on the opposite side of Maplewood is not required. That's fine, we can remove that. Sidewalk crossings on train tracks need truncated domes, provide dome panels for both sides of the crossing, or replace the sidewalk up to the sidewalk on Vaughn Street. We can make that revision. Both mid-block pedestrian crossings across Deer are shown with dual crosswalks. This reduces the amount of parking on Deer Street and will require parking and traffic safety approval. So we agree with the PTS approval. The plan does have a reduction in parking from what's out there today. I believe the current count is 7 reduced spaces. We do retain more of the on-street parking than the prior approval for this site, but we do acknowledge that this will need to be reviewed by the committee as well. I know the mid-block crossing from Portwalk across Deer, that comes up in future comments, so I'll save that for then. I'm assuming the second where it says both is referring to the 2 crosswalks at the intersection of Russell and Deer. We've been showing that in the same configuration since we've been coming to TAC for this project, and haven't received any specific comments related to that, so we've just continued to carry it forward. So if there is something specific that you'd like us to look at, we can do that, but it has remained unchanged for a number of months now. The brick sidewalk on Green Street will require the addition to or relocation of the permitted Green Street Railroad crossing. The sidewalk must continue across the tracks through this area, although this area can be asphalt. So we already sort of discussed this one with comment 4. Now that Nick, you're here, was comment 3 related to adding cobblestone channeling yours?
On Green Street?
It says the intersection of Green and Deer, but we're assuming you mean Green and Russell.
That's what I meant.
I mean, what are
I don't know that I
what
wrote.
are you, I guess,
I think we were looking to channel the cars or the vehicles.
so you're just envisioning like cobbles along the
Flush
center
mount- no,
line, or?
it's flush mounted. And it'd
But,
be-
yeah, but along the center line of the road, or what's?
Yeah, they'd go along the center
Okay.
line and kick the vehicles out to where they need to be to go left or right. It's not what was discussed initially in our group was having some kind of refuge for pedestrians, which there isn't width for. And your turning movements don't work. So I think we landed on, at least, wasn't that right, Eric?
Yeah, I think we could, it's not critical. If it's not going to be raised, I don't see it as being as critical to do the cobblestone. Yeah, it would be nice to have a refuge island, which is raised, but cobblestone wouldn't give you that, so.
No, we knew that when we made the
Green and Russell.
recommendation.
Turn coming out.
I mean, we did tweak the alignment of that so that the fire truck movement doesn't cross the center line anymore. That was the largest truck that we anticipate going down that rear drive. We can do whatever the wish of the city is. It's not a.
If it serves no function, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so 15, the city preferred length for on-street parking is 22 feet, except the end spaces are usually 18 to 20. So we can make this revision. We'll likely lose some additional on-street parking. We'd sort of use the existing spaces out there as our template for this, and they're all roughly 20 feet. There is some variation in them, but if the city would like those to be 22, we can make that revision. 16, work northeast of Russell is not to be completed until the roundabout is constructed. City to be granted a temporary construction easement in this park area. That's fine. We have no issue with that one. 17, Deer Street is being narrowed considerably. This change needs further review before comment can be made. So the configuration that we've been showing on Deer Street, it hasn't changed since we were here for TAC work session in January. To date, we have received no comments related to the geometry of Deer Street. And this plan was also peer reviewed by TEC, and they have made no comments regarding the geometry of the street. So we're not entirely sure what the basis of this comment is, but these plans have mostly remained unchanged since January. Do not plant trees over water lines, move trees or water mains. So this is similar. Comment 31 also discusses the Russell Street water main needing to be relocated out from under the plaza. So we can make that revision. 19, the Deer Street drainage system that is being added should be in the road and should enter existing drain manhole 5. That's fine, we can make that revision. The communication conduit shown in the back alley near Maplewood should be at least 10 feet away from the sewer manhole, running along the building side. I'm going to read 21 as well because they're related, where it's grease trap in the same location should be as close to the retaining wall as possible so vehicles can go around it during cleanings. So there is not a retaining wall in that location, so I'm assuming that is just referring to the curb line along there. There is also the electric duct bank that runs through that location, so if the desire is to pull the grease traps further away or have a larger separation between the electric conduit and communication conduit and the grease traps, we'll likely have to pull the grease trap closer to the building because of that main electrical duct bank is tying into an existing manhole that's right at Maplewood and the railroad. But we can increase the separation of those grease traps to the conduit. It'll just be the reverse of the comment. Do buildings 1 and 3 have basements or underground utility rooms? So building 1 does not. Building 3 in the left corner from this plan view, there will be a basement level utility area, which will be slightly below the existing grade in the rear, but it'll be mostly exposed just because of the grade change between Russell and that rear access drive. 23, the proposed streetlight that is on Maplewood near the back driveway is a little too close. Move it up the street 5 feet or so. We can make that change. Show the rest of the conduit for lighting. We can add that. Move proposed drain manhole 6 to the curb line just before the crosswalk and change it to a catch basin. Reuse existing penetration into existing drain manhole 7. We can make that revision. Dave, I'm assuming this was yours. Is that in addition to keeping, what was we have a second catch basin there along the row parking.
Yeah, we're looking at having a catch basin on either side.
So retain catch basin 3 and then just shift, so there'll be a two catch basins there on the project side of Russell.
Trying to get there, sorry. Drainage.
One more sheet, Peter.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so on the left, catch basin, so we retain catch basin 3 as well, and then, okay.
Yes. Yep, sorry.
Yeah, no, we
Yep.
can make that. Where am I? Move proposed catch basin 2 to the corner, eliminate drain manhole 14 and run new pipe to existing drain manhole 7. We can make that revision. Eliminate proposed drain manhole 11 and run a new pipe from catch basin 5 to existing drain manhole 8. That's fine, we can make that. Capture back driveway runoff as low as possible and direct to proposed drain manhole 3. So the way this site is graded is the rear drive, the runoff sheets off the property as it does in the existing condition. The drainage analysis has a detailed description of how we are meeting the city's treatment requirements for redevelopment sites. So we are treating and capturing the majority of the site on the runoff, the majority of the impervious surface on the site with really that rear access drive because of some of the grades. And I think it's noted in one of the future or the next comment about how flat that drive is. Capturing a lot of that was difficult, but we were able to meet the treatment standards from the city's stormwater regulations for redevelopment. while maintaining that existing flow pattern to the railroad. So that was 28 and 29. 30, the grease traps in the driveway to the garage are not located well. They need to be on the sides so that the driveway can still be used during cleaning. So since we submitted these plans, we've been working with the project MEP and the architects to locate some of the mechanical spaces. And the water service lines for Building 2 are now going to be located up that driveway to access a mechanical room in the rear of Building 2. So along with the drainage, drain lines, electrical conduits, and then the 2 grease traps and sewer connections, that area is very tight. So we will do what we can to try and keep those grease traps to either side as best we can. And as I had mentioned on a previous comment, that upper driveway is mostly going to be used for hotel valet across the street, so they will be able to manage that obstruction better than, say, if it was the main residential driveway, or if it was a public garage, which it's not. So we'll try and accommodate it the best we can, but it's a tight space, so there's only so much room there.
So we're going to want to see where the mechanical rooms are on the next iteration for each building.
Okay.
Okay, so I heard the building on the corner is not going to have a basement at all.
Right.
So we're going to need to know where the mechanical room is planned so that we can see where the main's going to come out of the ground and all that sort of thing.
So 31 I had addressed as part of 18 about moving the water line. 32, vertical curb shall be 6 inches. The vertical curb detail on the plans shows 6-inch wide curb.
Okay.
The bricks shall be tight joints, not finger tight. That's fine. We can make that change. Cast iron panels shall be radiuses or rectangular as appropriate and determined by DPW. So on the site plan, we are showing both the radius on the corners and the rectangulars for the mid-block crossings.
Great.
And the detail on 503 does show that. The panel detail on CO2 is just the rectangular one, so we can add the radius type panel as well, just to further clarify that.
Thank you.
Both sidewalks on Russell shall be brick. So all of the sidewalks within the limits of disturbance we are showing is being converted to brick, being converted to brick. So I guess is the city wanting us to expand that limit of work to?
That is exactly what we're asking for,
Okay.
down to the loading dock for the existing hotel.
All city streets in the downtown are to be at least 5 inches of pavement. That's fine. We can revise the detail for that. All materials in the right-of-way or in public easement areas shall be improved by the city prior to use. That's fine. All manholes in the right-of-way shall be hinge type, Ergo XL, or city-approved equal. That is the manhole cover detail that we have specified on C505. All manholes will have brick inverts. Our manhole details do specify brick inverts. All catch basins will have catch basin liners installed. So we have a separate detail for the catch basin liners on C504, and it is noted that all catch basins within the right-of-way will have a liner. Stormwater maintenance plan is required. A stormwater O&M plan was submitted as part of the full package. Statement or narrative regarding how the project complies with the city's stormwater regulations. So the drainage analysis has a description on how we are meeting those requirements, and the drainage was also peer reviewed by CMA, and there was 2 comments that were remained after our initial response, and I'll touch on those in a bit. All trees in the right-of-way shall be approved by Trees and Greenery and confirm with city arborists that correct planting details are shown. That's fine. All planted trees are to be watered for the first 2 full growing seasons. That's fine as well. The corner of Building 1 is in the city sewer easement. Realign the sewer into Maplewood under the train tracks or move the building footprint. So is our understanding that the realignment of the sewer is already being planned by the city and is planned to be constructed as soon as next year? And as I had mentioned, Building 1 is planned to be the last building constructed. So on the timing of that, I don't know how that's all going to shake out with when that project is moving forward with the city and when Building 1 construction is actually going to take place. Fair share contribution to construct a roundabout based on percentage to increase in daily traffic at Market and Russell intersection due to development, and that's fine. I believe that was actually a previous comment as well. Install pavers or striping to delineate the pedestrian and bicycle walkway along the back alley. So this was discussed as part of comment 7. And we had discussed that internally as well prior to receiving this comment. So I think using some sort of paver delineation is what we're going to be looking to do to address that. Include turning templates for tractor trailer trucks for Russell and Deer and Maplewood and Deer, and that's fine, we can provide that. Again, this geometry was very similar to what was in the prior approval for the site, and they had looked at really large trucks for this whole area based on the use that they had proposed, so we don't anticipate any problems related to that, but we'll run those and provide those turning templates. Include a close-up detail of proposed driveway on Maplewood with all utilities. We can add a blow-up inset on the utility plan of that area. Include railroad crossing design and letter from railroad that they accept design, provide all necessary railroad approvals. So we've discussed this one a bunch, but we do acknowledge that we need, there will be coordination and plan approval needed with the railroad for a number of different things. Install video detection for traffic signal at Maplewood and Deer. Is that something that's going to be needed prior to construction, or is that more of a post-construction monitoring?
Prior to construction would be best, because that'll help us control the traffic there when the construction's going on and lanes are being taken up.
Okay. Per traffic peer review, install a raised intersection on Deer Street at Portwalk Place, add drainage to accommodate. So we acknowledge that, you know, this is the city's street, so we'll do whatever the desire of the city is. However, we don't agree that making this a raised intersection is the best option. We've basically designed this to mirror the opposite end of Portwalk and has been operating without issues. Additionally, the raising of that, as noted, will require the addition of drainage structures, and there's a lot of existing utilities in that area that will likely potentially conflict with any additional drainage structures that needed to be added to that. So if that is the wish of the city to have that raised, we'll make that revision, but we don't necessarily agree with it. Include comments and additions based on TEC's traffic memo, so that's fine. I think, you know, this prior comment was noted by TEC as well with a list of other design items, so I'll run through those as well once we get through the city comments. Parking, traffic, and safety review and approval, as well as city council approvals needed for on-street parking changes. We've discussed that one already. Pre and post-blast survey and monitoring needed for sewer line on Deer Street. That's fine. All previous TAC comments must still be addressed. So we have submitted responses to all of the comments previously received. So if there's any comments that we have previously addressed that need further elaboration, please let us know, and we'll do our best to address those, but we feel we've addressed all of the previous comments we've received. Bump outs on the other side of Russell are proposed for current bus stop location. Confirm with Coast that this will still work for them, or whether a new bus stop location is needed. So Coast, the existing condition, Coast has stops and signage on both sides of the road, but there's specifically on the Sheridan side, there's no formal bus stop, pull off, or shelter. So really, we're just leaving that sign where it is. If the need for additional bus stop or a formal bus stop is needed, that's going to eat into the on-street parking that we have in that area. So I guess that's the trade-off. Is limo parking desired for this project? If not, propose to remove it. Loading zone on Russell is only 20 feet long. It should be at least 60. Parking, loading, and bus stop changes will need approval from Parking, Traffic Safety, and Council. So that limo parking space is an existing condition that we're just retaining. We can speak with the hotel and see if that's something that is used enough to warrant it remaining, or if they want it there or not. But we're just continuing the existing condition that's there. And then for the 60-foot loading zones, is the intent there that we would just have 3 consecutive spaces signed for the morning loading window? Mm-hmm. Okay. Loading may be more useful closer to the hotel on Russell and on Deer near Port Walk. That was the same comment as comment 1, essentially. Add an R5-1 do not enter sign, an R6-1 one-way sign, and an accept bike sign plaque must be on the right-hand side of the road facing Green Street at end of share rear travelway. So we can move that sign to the right. We're already showing an R5-1 and bike and pedestrian access signs from a previous round of TAC comments that those are requested to be added. So we can also add the R6-1 one-way and accept bikes plaques, but then you end up with 5 signs in the same post, and that just seems like too many signs. So I don't know if there's a simpler way to do that. I feel like the do not enter and bike and pedestrian should be enough, but
Yes, but the signs do need to be on the right-hand side. You're showing them on the left-hand side right now?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can move them. But are you okay with just the do not enter and the bike and pedestrian? I'm just worried we're adding too many signs.
Well, you need to let the bikes know that they're allowed to get in there.
There is a sign, one of the bike multi-use path signs that we're already proposing there, which I would assume would indicate to them that
Yeah.
they can.
The accept bikes is not a large one, it's just a small one that goes underneath the do not enter.
Okay. So we can add that one then. An accept bikes plaque must be added to the one-way sign facing the rear garage entrance. That's fine, we can add that. So those were the staff comments. I would like to run through the remaining comments we got from TEC on the traffic, just so we can get any input from staff on those before we formally respond to those. So 22 on the TEC letter was related to the Deer Street Port Walk intersection. So I think I've said our piece on that. They had some other things about installing conduit and pull boxes for potential future pedestrian crossing beacons and do not block intersection signage and shifting the parking spaces so that they're 20 feet from the intersection. So we're fine with all those. 23 again was about coordinating with the railroad, so I think we've talked through that quite a bit. 24 they had discussed shifting the, let's see exact wording of that. 24 was discussing providing an offset between the railroad property line and the proposed driveways. So that would basically, with the setbacks of the buildings, we don't have any additional space there to shift that. They did mention the potential of putting up a fence along the property line. We haven't been proposing that at this point, but if it's something that the city's going to want to see, I think we can consider doing that. But at this point, I don't. We're kind of far down the road to be doing mass shifts of buildings and driveways. 25, so this was related to visitor parking, so I think we talked about that already, that it's going to be on the first floor parking deck, and the residents will be responsible for getting their visitors access to that garage, and that the puzzle systems will be used by the hotel valet. And then 26, again, was about coordination with the railroad, which we've addressed. And then the last 2 comments that I want to touch on are the final 2 comments from CMA related to the stormwater peer review. Both of these were repeats from the initial rounds, which we had responded to. So I guess they're looking for some additional detail on those. One was related to the fact that we don't have any on-site infiltration of groundwater. That's due to two reasons. One, we have really high ledge in the majority of the site, and then the area of the site where the ledge is a little bit deeper, we have a really high groundwater table. So basically, all the high ledge is just funneling all the groundwater to that low spot, and so there's no ability to infiltrate on this site. And then their final comment was about confirming downstream existing stormwater drainage system has adequate capacity. So this was also on their original peer review, which we had responded to. And it actually was the reasoning we had, prior to our second tax submission, back in June, I believe, we had added a significantly increased the amount of on-site detention, and that was specifically related to this comment. So those are the only two outstanding ones they have, which we feel like we've addressed already. So those are all the comments we'd received prior to today. So if there's any others.
Thanks for going through this. All right, any comments or questions from TAC members?
I'll just address the comment about Deer Street width. We didn't notice until, just last week or so, looking at the plans carefully, that you were moving the curb line there. It wasn't obvious. It wasn't shown on the plans where the existing curb line is. So that's one of the reasons why this is a late comment, because we just became aware of it. And the turning templates at the intersections are directly related to that comment, because shifting the lanes and narrowing them is going to make it more difficult for those turning movements to be made. So it's a key factor. I think so, and on the crosswalk at Port Walk, so if you don't agree that the raised intersection would be the best treatment, then what are you suggesting would be the best treatment?
I mean, the fact that it's a pavered intersection with two crosswalks, I don't know if anything else is really necessary. I mean, I guess the flashing beacons might be, I guess, a good compromise, is to just put those in right off the bat. But I mean, in my opinion, like I drive through there all the time, and people cross everywhere in there now. So I think drivers that go through there, used to seeing people just pop out from behind a car, and I don't think we're substantially changing that condition. We're just putting the people where they should be, coming off the end of a street, as opposed to them just crossing wherever.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
In listening to Eric, at least in our group reviewing this, I think the concern with the crosswalk is the higher volumes that Deer Street has than Hanover. And what you're doing is duplicating Hanover Street. I think you said that earlier, and that's what's on the table here. I certainly wouldn't want to see the lights added if the better solution is to raise the intersection and the crosswalks, to again recognize that Deer Street isn't Hanover Street, and the volumes are dramatically different. So I know that's a substantive change. I think we all realize that.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth considering, given the way you've laid it up. And I'm a big advocate of having two crosswalks on both sides of Port Walk Place. And I think the only way to successfully do that is potentially to raise that whole crossing there, that intersection.
I think something else to consider too is related to what we just were previously discussing, is the fact that with the realignment of the Russell Street intersection, cars now come flying down Russell Street, barely stop, coming onto Deer Street, and they're, traveling at a higher rate of speed down Deer Street. By teeing that off, people are going to have to stop now. And then also, the width of pavement there is going to be narrower, and all of those width reducing and intersection realignment is going to slow the traffic down going through there. So I don't think you're going to see cars going quite as fast through that area as they do today, which will also improve the pedestrian experience just on its own.
Well, for what it's worth, I don't disagree with that. It's a question of whether it's enough.
Yeah, and like, I mean, like I said, it's obviously, it's the city's street at the end of the day, so
Yeah. I'll leave
if
it
it's
to
something they
others.
want to be added, we'll figure out how to make it work. I mean, the drainage is going to be a challenge. There's some significant utilities underground there that will make that a challenge to get in. But if that's the direction that the city wants us to take,
Seems like it's worth looking at.
Yeah. Because my concern is, right now, we haven't had any accidents there, it's because it's not marked. Pedestrians are using more caution when they cross the street. And you mark something like that, then they're going to assume that they're safe and they won't take as much precautions crossing the street. And it's not a great place to be crossing that close to a signal. So, I think raising it will bring the driver's awareness, and I think it would be a good way of calling attention to it, both from the pedestrians and the vehicles.
All right, you're going to look at that, all right? What did you agree to do on the back, on your shared street, your shared driveway with pedestrians, bicycles? And are you gonna do a flush-mounted designated walkway along the back of the building so it's a little safer?
yeah, so we had actually discussed this internally even before we got this round of comments, and we had discussed doing some sort of flush band.
Like Sheaf Street?
Yeah, or, Sheaf. Chestnut also has, both sides have that kind of running with the street. I think it's a lighter colored with the
Yep.
red infill, so it's something along those lines. But yeah, I think that's the direction we'd prefer to take over. One of the comments said something about mountable, that we'd prefer to keep everything flush.
Well, I don't think you can do really mountable there.
Well,
The
it was
fire-
it was one of the comments that we got, so.
Okay.
But either way, we'd already discussed doing a flush band, and so we have no issue doing that.
I don't know that this was in the notes, but I think it's worth talking about for a minute on Maplewood Ave. You've got 4 trees, it looks like, on Maplewood Ave that you've gotten raised planters. Seems to me to be more consistent with the streetscape of Maplewood Ave and what we've just done across the road, kitty corner, that those should really be flush grates in the sidewalk. It looks like there's only 5.5 feet between a 4-story building or a 5-story building and the raised tree planter, which just seems not only out of character, but too narrow, and I think that's maybe where you should use the tree grates like we've done on the rest of Maplewood Ave.
Yeah, and so building 1 it's a 4-story building, but the piece along Maplewood is only 3 stories, and that 4th story is set back from Maplewood.
Still.
Yeah, no,
I think 5.5 's
it doesn't
inadequate.
change the width of the side. I was just, you had thrown it at the height of the building, so I just want to make sure that we were on the same page as far as that goes.
Plus, if there's something like a fence along the railroad, more pedestrians will be using that sidewalk. They won't be cutting over the tracks anymore.
Right. So.
Yeah, no,
that's
we
an
can do that.
idea.
Yep.
I haven't got much more on my list, but I wondered, given your landscape plan does not include anything for that private roof garden on the back of Building 2, it seems to me you should present or augment that plan with a planting plan of what's going to be in that green roof area on Building 2, on the 2nd floor. And it would be good, I think, for the green building statement to get an understanding of what you're going to do on the rooftop of all 3 buildings. Is there any room or accommodation for solar? What color are those roofs? What are you doing to cut down on the heat island effect of what's already there? The big parking lot. That's all.
You all set?
Yeah, I'm good for now.
I think, was there one of the TEC comments was a possible gate on the driveway coming in from Russell? As a way to keep people, the public, or someone who's confused and thinks they can go in there, and rather than once they drive in that driveway, there's no way out. They'd have to go in to turn around. Is that a consideration, to put a gate in, or something to keep?
Yeah, I don't know if a gate is considered. I think we've kind of talked about a couple different ways to handle that. I don't know if we have the answer yet. I think he's talking on this driveway. How to keep people.
This one?
Yeah.
Could. I think the only thing I worry about is is it going to make pedestrians feel like they can't go through there and access the backside of the site, which was pretty intentional how we did that. I mean, we don't have an issue. I don't think we have an issue with it necessarily. I'd probably prefer to put signage up there instead of putting a gate in, but
Why don't you put a gate in if you need it later?
What's that?
I say, couldn't they put a gate in later if it ends up being a problem?
Impossible.
Probably have to run the
I
conduit.
mean, you're gonna want one, I guess that's more important to say. I think if this becomes a problem for the tenant, they're gonna have an incentive to put a gate up rather than us have to tell them to put one in there, right?
Yeah,
It's
and
difficult to go in that building, turn around and come back
Yeah,
out.
so I don't know, maybe a no public parking sign or something like
Maybe
that, and
a
then,
bloody sign.
and then maybe just leave some spare conduit there in case you ever need a gate in the future. We can talk
Yeah.
about it.
Any other comments at this moment? Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this application? Just note that we did receive some comments that were handed out or emailed out earlier. All right, we'll close that portion and open it up to TAC for motion or further discussion.
Looks like there's quite a few comments still pending on this one. I don't think I'm out there with that one, and I'm presuming that we'd like to see this one come back.
We could get a motion to that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right, the next item of business is the request of Randy and Jeff Collins for property located at 77 Meredith Way, requesting preliminary and final subdivision approval to subdivide one existing lot with 22,463 square feet of lot area and 31.7 feet of frontage into two lots with associated 73 feet of road extension, as follows. Proposed lot 1, 11,198 square feet with 73.79 feet of street frontage, and proposed lot 2 with 11,265 square feet of lot area and 31.61 feet of street frontage. Said property is located on Assessor Map 162, Lot 16, and lies within the General Residence A district.
So this item included a late submittal that's annotated on the TAC website. We had some plans that came in on the 31st. Some comments were submitted to the applicant via email to date, and I just want to confirm receipt of those. So
We got them, thank you.
maybe a good place to start is to go through those comments.
Sure. Beverly, and thank you all for having us back again. As you know, I'm Chris Mulligan from Bozen and Associates. To my right is Brenda Colbow from TFM. To my left is Jeff Collins, and to his left is Jack McTeague, also from TFM, the project engineers on this one. So, yeah, I guess if we get into the items that were raised in this afternoon's email, First one, existing sewer line for number 77 to be cut and capped at Pine Street. That's fine. Second one, existing water line to be cut and capped at the Main and Meredith Way. Rest of the service abandoned, not removed. That's fine as well. The third one we'd like to talk about, the driveway for Lot B should be at least a foot off the side of the property line. I'm not entirely sure what the justification for that would be or why that's necessary, so we were hoping to get some clarification on that.
It's just so close to the property line, it's not really maintainable. And also, the part of the radius for the driveway actually is crossing over the lot line. Maybe look at it closely, Chris.
Okay, that's fine. All right, then we're agreeable to making that change. The next one is one that I think we also need to discuss. This is a request that we extend the roadway to what would be about the middle of the proposed garage on the second lot. What our concern, there's a couple of concerns we've had with this kind of since the beginning. Number one is the sentiment within the neighborhood of adding additional pavement has been very negative, and we've been cognizant of that. We also would like to remind you that we proposed this plan kind of at the behest of certain members of the staff. And one of the understandings we had was that, while we understood we would have to go through full site review, that we would be, that the amount of work that we would have to do in the right-of-way would be somewhat minimal. So we'd like to see what we can do to get an agreement to limit the amount of the length of the roadway that you're expecting us to produce. What we've proposed is a easement for a turnaround in the private driveway, which is not a problem, and we're agreeable to that. But the extension of the roadway, we're proposing to be, I believe, 73 feet. And we'd like to avoid having to extend it another 10 or 12, which is what it looks like you're going to require us or request us to do. So that's an issue that we'd like to.
So I'll just speak to that. The truck that plows this neighborhood is a Ford 5500 series truck. It is longer than the distance from the far radius to the shutoff. So literally, the truck can't get into the turnaround that you're trying to provide. The back of the truck is already behind the driveway, so it can't back up into that space. There's not enough room. If we had a skid steer, we could do it, but.
Just out of curiosity, how does
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
What is the likelihood that the truck would just do reverse, forward, up and down the street? Because that's the existing situation.
Right, and we're trying to get away from that,
Yeah.
so that's the purpose.
Yeah.
Because the way that Meredith is graded at the end where it meets Bartlett Street, there's a hill there. I don't know if you've ever plowed it in the blizzard like I have, but I have done it personally. And I can tell you that there's zero sight distance when you back out into Bartlett Street.
Yeah.
So we're trying to create a turnaround so that it's safe for our drivers, and so we can live with a road extension because it's safe.
So the way you do it now is backing out?
Yeah, we actually back out into Bartlett Street blind with the flashers going and hope for the best.
Yeah. So you're going to turn around and plow the other direction?
So if you wanted to potentially provide an easement on Lot A instead of Lot B, that might be possible as long as it had a good radius.
Sorry, it
Doesn't work, though.
Doesn't work on that.
Doesn't work. There'll be cars in front of the garage, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the only other accommodation I could suggest, I guess. It's just literally it's just not long enough. The truck is just too big to actually use that area.
Okay, well, that's the answer that we got. Moving on to the next one, patios. I'm sorry. Keep going.
All right. So we can make changes to the plan. I guess, should we consult with you to make sure that it's
kind of, whatever changes we make, or you
Yeah,
just,
I-
want- you just, because it's kind of an arbitrary thing saying just the
It
middle of
is.
the driveway.
We really just want from the close end of the driveway to the end of the turnaround, we want the 30 feet so the truck can actually back into the driveway and then go away.
Drive back
So
up.
that's what everybody wants.
Next one, are you done?
Fine, I guess we'll just do it.
Patios in the rear yards to be porous, that's fine, we will agree to that. The next one, test pit for Lot A rain garden. The Lot A rain garden is kind of a new development, or a new feature on this project. I don't know if you recall, but originally we anticipated putting rain gardens at the front of Lot B and the rear of Lot B, because that's where there was some ponding in the neighboring properties on Thornton Street. So we have test pits for those locations, but not for the new location on Lot A. We can prepare them and provide them, but we'd like to be able to move forward, subject to producing that information, because we don't have it at the gutters and French drains draining into the rain gardens, again, that's fine. Removing the soil legend from the plan, that's fine. Two 22-degree bends in the laterals, that's fine, we agree to that. Sewer cleanout's not allowed in the city park. That's another item I think we need to discuss. We can certainly remove the sewer cleanouts from the plan, but I guess it kind of begs the question, if we do that, do we then propose sewer cleanouts in Pine Street and/or Meredith Way, have no sewer cleanouts at all?
It would be fine to put them in Meredith Way, just we don't want them in the park.
Okay.
The child could trip over it, land on it, et cetera, et cetera. Just inappropriate.
So, understood. So what we had done, Dave, is the sewer cleanouts are at the elbows. So if we put them in Meredith Way and Pine Street instead, they'll be away from those elbows.
You don't need to have them in Pine Street. You should put them in Meredith Way.
Okay.
Yep.
One or just,
If you change the 45-degree bends to the 22s, you should have no issues.
okay.
So
Okay, good. So we can accomplish that. State standards for water service depth, that's fine. Warning tape, that's fine. Specify that the road gets heavy-duty pavement, again, that's agreeable. And as far as the riser in each rain garden, so water can get down through frozen media, I think I'm going to let Jim address that.
Jack,
Jack, I'm sorry.
that's all right.
My bad.
we knew what he meant.
We have the outlet structures in there with a orifice right at the ground level. We can just put a little chunk of under drain on there to make sure they drain into the rock. Would that be acceptable as opposed to risers?
Yep. And the orifice should be just a little actually above the media, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, then the next one, I guess, provide calcs. I think Jack has updated calcs.
Yeah, the sheet passed around has updated counts on the sheet, but you want an actual drainage summary? Or is
Yeah,
this-
just a quick summary. Executive summary would be fine, Jack.
Okay.
And then finally, as far as recommendation for approval on being contingent on acquiring permission from the city council for the sewer, that's understood. All of that.
If you could build that into your timeline, we like to see all of that go, have that approved before any kind of degradation occurs, so just
Okay.
plan for that.
Yep.
We want them to go simultaneously for recordation with the plat. It also includes your easement for the turnaround for the private driveway.
Yeah, and I've.
That doesn't go to council, but we just want all those easements to go simultaneously.
Yeah, and I've I've been corresponding with Trevor about that easement, so we'll get on the city council.
It's just those two easements, correct? Okay.
Any other comments from TAC members at this time?
Yeah, Jack, can you get rid of that 36 contour in the backyard?
You just want to keep the existing where it is?
Yep. And on the right side of Lot B, the house on the drain plan? It's gone on this one. Okay, we're good. Never mind. Looking at two different plans at the same time.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Another comment, I know it's your hope to get this on the October agenda for the planning board. We are going to need, submission to come in on time, and usually we don't like to schedule them simultaneously in the same month, but if we're very close, we have no significant comments, most of these comments are clean and pretty addressed, and that we don't have any new comments, then we'll go ahead and do that. So just to make sure that your submission comes in on time, is complete, and then pending any other comments from Public Works, then we will consider that.
I just have a couple of quick questions. I can't figure out where the front door is on these two houses. And I just get a little concerned, especially with Lot B. You haven't got room for it. It looks like you have a 22 by 22 foot garage, right? On the front of Lot 2. So, how's this going to present? You had shown me images a couple months ago
Yeah.
of houses that I think work. but-
That has a porch, like a,
So is this a porch included? You just can't see it?
yeah, you can't see.
All right, so there's a porch there with
with
steps going up,
Yeah.
3 or 4 steps to get up to a landing and into, okay, that's good. Same thing going on in the other one? On Lot B, Lot A?
Oh, the other one, you can see the front,
I mean, I think what Lot A needs to be considered is a front porch with steps.
also has a front porch. sorry,
Okay,
but,
oh, so it has the same as Lot B?
Yeah, I believe it's that's
Yeah.
kind of what everybody has in the neighborhood.
Yep.
It's, the front porch thing.
I think it fits the character, and it
Yeah.
diminishes these 2 cars that are gonna sit in front of the garage on Lot A and on Lot B. You're gonna see cars, so that's good. As much as it's a pain for you to extend that road, I get that. I do think it's gonna make the turnaround better for your buyer. There's less likelihood that truck is gonna need to back up into a sort of conflict zone behind the 2 parked cars. So I think that's an added benefit of extending the road there, the 10 or 12 feet or whatever the number is. I don't think it's a good design to have the easement area behind the parked car, which would maybe stay there, but not likely ever get used, because the truck would be able to go further down Meredith Street and just back into that lot. Anyway, just an observation.
What about the dormers?
All right.
What?
Nothing. Being a wise guy.
I'm just being me. I'm sorry.
It's refreshing for him to be funny, though, right?
So Beverly, when is the next, if you have it up, when's the
Yeah, we
next
just-
tax submission?
So we just actually pulled it up. The submission deadline is 20th of September for October 4th. And the next planning board meeting would be October 20th, deadline 28th of September. There's a pretty tight turnaround, but we,
So it's the 28th to submit for October 20th planning board, got it?
Yeah.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
sounds like the comments are pretty straightforward, so.
Are there any public comments on this application? No? All right, we'll close that portion. So, see this one more time? Or what?
I mean, there's a few, I think the timing could work if they did come back. There's the truck turnaround issue and sewer lateral. I think there's some reconfiguration requested there. Seems like, I'll leave it up to Public Works, but there's time for them to come back and still make the planning board meeting for October. Considering this was a late submission also, and you've just now provided comments, that would be my recommendation, but I'll defer to Public Works on it.
How's that sound?
Sounds fine to me. Zach?
So motion for them to return?
Is there a second?
Second.
Perfect.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, now on to new business. The request of Coventry Realty LLC for property located at 111 State Street, requesting a conditional use permit approval in accordance with section 10.1112.14 of the zoning ordinance to allow zero parking spaces where 1.3 are required. Said property is located on Assessor Map 107, Lot 50, and lies within the Character District 4 and Historic District. Who's here? John?
Thank you, Chairman Stith. You did say 1.3 are
Well,
required.
I think, Beverly, if you want to comment on that, you're going to,
I did, it's the minimum requirement for one dwelling unit, and so I think we did have 1.3 where 1.3 required and 0 are provided for that one dwelling unit. Is that not your understanding as well?
Okay. Well, we applied and it's a parking table that looks at the use requirement now and the use requirement with this addition or the changes to the plan.
So the parking CUP is for the conversion of the residential restaurant unit to the residential unit, correct? And it's the residential unit that is triggering a new parking spot in conformance with the non-conforming. So we essentially are saying 1.3 is required for the residential unit, but we don't have any new parking. And so the CUP is to just not provide a parking space for that one residential unit.
Even though we are moving further into compliance, because it's a restaurant now. And it's,
Understood that.
there's a small change that we've had, and we'll pass out the plans right now that just happened a few days ago on it. Units are the same place, same area of the building. We've just thought that the two apartments are too large, the way they are now. One was almost 2,000 square feet on the third floor, and the other one was 1,500 or something. So we haven't changed the area calculations or the place in the building or the uses of the space, but we're now proposing to make the second floor 2 units instead of 1,
Okay.
and the third floor 3 instead of 1. And we've redone the parking calculations for that, which has added another, Tracy, what did it add more?
One space.
Another space, because a bunch of them are micro apartments in the 2 that we've made. They're smaller than 500 square feet. So we have that plan of the second and third floor. And again, on your plan, you'll just see the second floor being 1 unit, third floor being 1 unit. Third floor always was 1 unit.
So it's
We
adding.
don't think it would operate well with a 2,000 square foot unit. You know, it looks too much like a boarding house to me, you know, with a lot of bedrooms. That's why we felt the smaller units were more realistic, because they want to be apartments. They don't want to be 3, 4, 5 bedroom units. And that drove us making them separate units.
So that would be 3 additional units, I think?
Yeah, I think you need 5 spaces.
Yeah, so we could just, is it too late to
From
change?
1.3 to 5.
So I believe it went to the paper today, and I believe the abutter notices went out last. It's you know, John, it's such a tight turnaround.
Yeah.
And this month in particular,
Yeah.
because the submission date was so, because the meeting is so quick, comes so quick after the submission date, the abutter notices have
It's an
gone out.
it's an early Thursday.
It's an early Thursday, and so the abutter notices have gone out, and so we would probably need to renotice.
Okay.
Renotices.
Yeah, we just have to.
So we would have to request postponement and then place it on the, and then actually
go-
withdrawal, I have to check, but I would think that it couldn't go in September because we have to basically, it went to the paper, I believe, actually, I think it went to the paper last week.
Anyway,
So,
could we go through the comment here, though, as? far-
absolutely, you could go through the comment here, and that way you could satisfy that component of it, and then we would have put it probably on October with the re-notification.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would be postponement or, because it's really a different request now, so it would probably be, but I think we can consider the current request, I think, today.
Yeah, we could call it an amendment.
Yes,
maybe, Postpone it
Yep.
for an amendment.
I think. What, do you have any comment about that, Peter?
You mean attack?
Yep. It's still
We're really
a,
just supposed to look at parking demand for,
so this is a conditional use
Right.
permit, and it's required to go to TAC for conditional use permit, but the request, which was before 1.3, to a modification to provide 0, 1.3 are required. Now the modifications provide 0 or 5 are required.
Right.
Still a net reduction, though. So I think we can
but
consider.
our TAC notice said provide 0 where 36 are required.
Yeah.
Right, well, exactly, right,
So, would we,
Well, we'll see.
would we need to renotice the TAC is the question and come back? I mean, I think the timing would still not change much for you, even if we put it on the next TAC as well for notification. I don't think the timing will change for the October meeting. So do you have any?
I would just suggest if there's no real issues here today, we go with the 36 that's been advertised at
Yeah.
meeting only 5, and then re-advertise for the planning board.
Okay.
Rather than have you come
Right.
back for.
That'd be great.
Something
Sure.
inconsequential.
Appreciate that.
Is this mine or yours?
That is it. It's just color coded.
Okay, I didn't know if I turned it.
So again, Coventry Realty is working on the 111 State Street property. There's a survey plan in your package that was submitted. It was a property that was 2 parcels which were combined in a merger. And now the new parcel is being improved with some exterior access in the rear that will allow for appropriate access and bring both buildings into compliance with life safety codes. As a part of the process, we do need, because there is some renovation from restaurant space to dwelling units, we need to look at parking calculations, so we submitted a parking analysis. That analysis is now a little bit different. We've submitted that today. It does require 37 spaces, where we had 36 in our initial submission as the requirement. The existing uses before the change required 44 parking spaces, so from a parking demand, there's a lessening of the demand. It is changing to residential, but small apartments, and probably going to be used by people that are working people, as it is with close proximity to a restaurant, which is not a most desirable apartment location for peace and quiet and quiet enjoyment. But still, the project is important for the applicant, and I don't know if there's anything else you want to say, Mark?
Yeah, just a Mile High, just so everybody, knows what happened. This property has been a restaurant for half a century. Cafe Pretinella, then it was Jack Quigley's and Agave, that's the one part of it. And then the other part was Dos Amigos, and then it was Mr. Kim's. It used to be the Red Door on the second floor. So it's that second floor Red Door space, which then became the second floor to Mr. Kim's. That has no viability as a restaurant, nor can it comply. We can't get 2 means of egress code complying out of that second floor. That was a grandfathered space for a really long time that it just ran its course. So really, it's necessitated to get another use on that second floor and not a restaurant. And residential is the most appropriate. So even though it's a more intense use parking going to a less, your ordinances require, they haven't always required it that way. 1996, you required just a baseline calculation, and as long as you went under the baseline calculation, you didn't have to provide any more parking. But anyhow, that's where you are today. So where you are today, because even though we're less intensifying, we have no land for parking, never have, never provided any parking. And the basement of this building on the 107 and the second floor and the third floor have been ruled unusable until we do resolve this, so really we have no use for that building except for the first floor until we get this parking CUP. We can do the addition, which everybody's aware of, here, but we need this parking step to get any use, really, of that upper floor. So it's important to me to move it along as quick as we can, just because the property's idle, and we'd like to use those floors and move forward.
To offer a little clarification, I think maybe for the benefit of the public and Eric, is that it is the change of use, and with that brings all the attached regulations and standards associated with that use. Our ordinance, and you're absolutely right, Mr. McNabb, often ordinances, and maybe our ordinance in the past did say if you brought things into closer compliance, it was exempt. Our ordinance says any change, alteration, extension, but it does say change, would require full compliance with the ordinance. And so, although it does seem to, a little unfair when it is still essentially bringing down the total demand, the change of use does introduce a different utilization pattern. Residential use is different than, I think, and then, of course, the spirit of the ordinance, or actually the letter of the ordinance, is pretty clear on this. So this is why we've asked the applicant to come before the planning board to get that modification. We are supportive of it, given the circumstances and the historic use of the site. So.
I just want to add to that. I think what's really great about this application is, in having 5 units instead of 2, is they appear to be really well designed. They're well placed in downtown. They're going to be new construction. And I think the rents are likely to be way more affordable without parking than they would with. And there's a dearth of anything semi-affordable in the downtown that's not a wreck. So.
You're absolutely right. They have to be. I mean, consumers aren't dumb. When you have no parking and you have a small unit under 500 square feet, you've got to be the lowest rent of apartments, or they'll rent the 2-bedroom with a parking space. So the nature of smaller units and the more inconvenienced they are, by very nature, is the lowest rent. Down there, we plan to rent them to employees of the restaurants, Rosa, Soul, or Martingale Wharf.
That was noted in the application. I know. I just finished the staff report, so I know that when we're pushing it back now, but I did note that I did see that.
And based on the change in uses, it's not an issue for us. I mean, we see, if it's residential, even if they do have a car, if you go looking for a place to park at night, you're going to have more opportunities than you would during the day when you're looking to be a restaurant use. So
Right. I
think it's a good use of the space, and it's we don't have an issue with the parking shortage.
Thank you.
Understood.
Great project.
Thank you. I appreciate how planning and Patrick and Shanti worked with us. This was a lot of work to get this to this point, and the system worked well for this project, recognizing that you need a code-complying stair tower and an elevator for handicap accessibility, and so thank you.
Egress here is miles ahead of where it was, so.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see the improvements on the Dos Amigos building.
Yeah.
Good.
So you gave up a lot of sleeping opportunities or additional tenant opportunities from your previous plan, but you feel that this will go to market better?
Well, really, Shanti, it's a great question. I felt it was more genuine, representing what should happen. You're not allowed to run a boarding house or run a
It would have been,
room
it
rental.
would have been a rooming house. Patrick and I talked about
Kind
that.
of would be a room rental.
It absolutely would.
And it could look like somebody would lease it and say, hell, got 4 roommates. But when I really sat back and looked at it, I said, it needs to look like a duck and squawk like a duck. And if I just make these small micro apartments, they can't be anything but that. there's one bedroom, a unit, one bathroom, and one kitchen.
2 and 1, 2 bedroom.
You can't make it any different than that. You got 5 kitchens. So although I'm a real fan of supporting all kinds of housing alternatives and a lot more density, because that's what we need to get rents lower, it really needs to be a standalone apartment here so that it's not operated differently.
I like it, good solution.
Hey, Mark, if you're going to put that mural on the side of the building or something like it, make sure you bring it to the HTC. Okay?
Well, the mural's already there. You mean the one that we showed?
It's already painted on there?
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
staying there?
Well, I just didn't want to get rid of it yet. I appreciate artwork, and those who spent time, I was leery to paint over it.
Okay.
So it's not what I would have added today, but it's there today.
All right, I'll open it up for any public comment on this application. Seeing none, we'll close that portion. And
I have one other question. On the, what's the office/brain room? What do you do in a brain room? Is it
Brain room is an industry term, we call it. So everything for the restaurant goes back to the brain room. All the thermostats for the restaurant, all the POS system, the safe, all the sound system, all the circuits. So we move all those to a brain room, and that operates the whole restaurant.
Okay.
So,
all right, it's not part of the kitchen where you...
no, it's part of
It's part of the
should've
menu.
just called it an office for the restaurant, but we do wire everything back, and then we do remote sensors everywhere, because otherwise the public touches them all and turns thermostats up and down and turns sound up and down. And
They wouldn't do that. Depends on their state of inebriation.
no, they would do it. They'd rip it off the wall too. So that's what a brain room is. Right now, that's on the 3rd floor.
yeah, I see. So we do have one person on Zoom. Are you raising your hand to speak to this application? Let me allow you to talk.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, hi. This is Sandel Morse. I live on Chapel Street, practically across the street from the property. I had a very difficult time understanding what was actually happening. Let me just briefly summarize and see if I have it, that the essence is to create 5 apartments above the old Mr. Kim's where 2 are currently, are now. Is that correct?
That's correct. All within the same area, though. So it's not an expansion of that space. It's just that's correct, though, what you said.
Okay, so I would like to object because I think we have enough density in this tiny little neighborhood right now. And it sounds to me like you're creating substandard housing for poor people, and I don't like that idea. I think we should have standard housing for poorer people or workers, not just 500 square feet to house your workers over a restaurant. I think we need to consider the community and what the community needs.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
I want to address that.
All right.
I
Go ahead, Zach.
have one comment. I don't know if it's just the colors overlapping or square footage, but it looks like the closet from the bedroom in 202 is miscolored as
It is.
201,
Yeah.
so I don't know if the square footage between the two will change
Good catch.
due to that.
It could.
Something to note.
The latest and greatest plan is the black and white with the 8.5 by 11 handout. So that might have been updated on that one. And it's not in color, but the areas are
Mark, would you consider giving the city a small triangle-shaped easement for where the sidewalk goes over the property? Existing sidewalk? Just to
Right.
memorialize that?
Over this corner here?
Yeah.
Just an easement for...
That for us?
Easement for what?
Just for the sidewalk, just as it sits.
Oh, sure. Yeah, happy to.
Thank you.
That absolutely makes sense.
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, it makes sense.
Is that at the
Right.
northerly corner?
Right here.
Chief?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. Yeah, I hadn't noticed that. Good catch.
Dave, if you wondered, the dormers are great.
Oh, I saw the dormers. They're on here. They are great. They were so good that you didn't have to comment on them, which is nice.
So John, you'll update the application details and then submit the new submittals so we can get that straightened and re-advertised?
Yes, we'll submit a new cover letter and
Thank you.
application. I guess on the cover letter, we'll talk about the 0 or 5 are required, but there isn't a form to fill out, so Peter can handle.
No, I think just updating with this new information.
Yeah.
Yep, updating the application.
So did you decide if you're going forward, or is it going to be delayed a month?
So we
Planning
can't,
board.
it has to be delayed till October because we have to re-advertise,
Yep.
but we will let this count as the TAC meeting, and then we can say that you've, brought it to TAC unless there's additional comments from the TAC that I'm not aware of, and if, presuming they're ready to move it forward.
Motion to move it forward.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
We'll get that submitted before the end of the month for the next planning board deadline, is it?
I think it was the 23rd of September.
Did a good job on your end. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. The pink was counted in the 547, and the green only counts, but
I'm gonna
it's
just-
positive. It is dedicated to 202, not
Should just be
201.
amended application correctly.
Oh, you are colorblind.
Okay, item B under new business, the request of Hemlock Way Realty Investments LLC for property located at 0 Patricia Drive, requesting preliminary and final subdivision approval to subdivide a lot with an area of 137,549 square feet and 414 feet of continuous street frontage on a private road into 2 lots as follows. Proposed Lot 1 with an area of 92,908 square feet and 150 feet of frontage on a private road, and proposed Lot 2 with an area of 44,641 square feet and 264 feet of continuous frontage on a private road. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 283, Lot 11, and lies within the Single Residence A District. Welcome.
Thank you. Mike Garrity with Garrity Planning Consultants, and I don't think I have a whole heck of a lot to say. I don't know, Beverly, if you want to jump in here, but we're basically here. My understanding is we're here sort of to technically advance this to the planning board. The approval lapsed, I believe, on the 18th of August, and so we're working with the planning and legal department to finalize a few things relative to the private roadway, which has not in any way changed the technical aspects of the plan from what was previously approved by TAC and by the planning board back in February of 2021. So we're just here to get a plan reapproved and I think finalized. I think we're pretty much there.
Are you, I don't know if you submitted a letter or if you're able to address how all the previous comments, because it would be nice to get all the previous comments cleaned up for this version as it goes forward and really have a very streamlined set of stipulations, presuming there's no new stipulations that Planning Board would like to advance. Part of the reason this was delayed is we've had to clean up, and it's for the benefit of the TAC and the public, that there was the area that the city will be releasing, and we'll be releasing it to abutting property owners and getting the appropriate sort of notification and response from those abutters, which there are 3 of, is, I think, the matter that we'll be taking, working with legal to get corrected. We've clarified the Paper Street, ownership of the Paper Street, and I don't know if there's any additional comments that the TAC would generate, but I believe there were several stipulations outstanding related to the first approval, Mike, if you have any, could run through how those have been fully addressed, if you have that list, or if you could provide that in a letter, that would be.
I can provide one if need be. I think everything was, from my knowledge, everything was signed off by DPW. Everything was signed off. There were a few small conditions, I believe, with respect to the final conditions of approval. Those were all signed off by DPW. So, but if need be, I can provide a letter of some sort identifying what was required and what was done.
I think if you provide that, it'd be
Sure.
very helpful to the planning board, because they'll ask,
Sure, absolutely, can do that.
All right. Any other comments?
We do, good. White looks good.
We'll open up anyone from the public wishing to speak on this application. All right, seeing none, we'll close that portion.
Now what happens?
Well, I think
No,
we're waiting, I can't, waiting for motion, I
anyone
think.
from TAC. Are you, Beverly, you're set with what you need?
I think I'm set with what I need. I think the only other thing, I just would offer clarification that we, at this point, are starting to look for easement plans. I think when I spoke with Trevor, requiring an easement plan whenever there's, I think, 3 or more easements, so I think there's only one easement on this we saw, so we're comfortable with that. And then we will work with legal to get the issue cleared up of the appropriate notification of the abutters, so the abutters to whom we'll be releasing the property. So that's all I have. And I'm not on tax, so I can't make
Okay.
a motion, but I have no further comments.
Just one clarification, I think that we're on the same page, but I want to make sure I'm looking at the utility notes on sheet 7. If the fire department requires fire suppression, my understanding is that there will be fire suppression in these homes, right?
I believe that was what was required.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay.
Yep.
Well, we've seen this before, and appreciate you bringing it back again.
This will be the last time, I hope.
Approve it.
Yeah.
I know you're happy to be here.
Sure,
I'd make a
we'll
motion to approve this from a tax standpoint.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, item C under new business. The request of Tom Ballin and 8KPH LLC, owner and applicant, for property located at 161 Deer Street, requesting site plan review approval for the construction of a 4-story building to include a penthouse, commercial space, 19 dwelling units, and associated site improvements. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 125, Lot 17-3, and lies within the Character District 5, Downtown Overlay, North End Incentive, and Historic Districts. Hello.
Thank you, Chairman. John Shagnon from Ambit Engineering. With us today is Carla Goodnight, project architect, Ballin, developer owner, and Terrence Parker from Terra Firma Landscape Architecture. We have response to comments and associated material for everyone. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 that way, and the rest that way. And I also have a full-size set for the record that. There. So we appreciate the time that you took in getting us the comments before the weekend. That's what? So I guess we can begin. I did upload the plans to the web, but first comment was the stronger design needed for the Pocket Park. I don't know if that comment came from anyone in particular, but we definitely will be agreeable to updating that design. I guess, are there any particular suggestions that we would, that you would want us to pay attention to through the course of the meeting? You can let us know. as far as the pocket park calculation of square footage, the comment was to not include the transformers, fencing, retaining walls, drainage infrastructure, etc. So if you look at sheet C3, the plans have been revised to eliminate those components mentioned from the community space, with the exception of the underground drainage component. That component is under the usable space. We feel that it has been allowed in other situations and should be allowed here. So the revised site plan C3 has taken back that community space area to not include the transformers, the retaining wall, and the community space calculation in the upper left now has the total lot area of 22,667, proposed community space requirement of 20% being 4,534. So the 12-foot wide pedestrian sidewalk is 1,355 square feet. That's the same as submitted in the front. The pocket park in the back has been reduced in area to 2,179, which means that there's 820 square feet to make up, and the applicant proposes an off-site community space purchase to make that up. The next comment was to provide ADA accessible access to the pocket park from the western corner of the proposed structure. We have ADA access from the Maplewood Avenue side. We believe that's sufficient. We can provide some signage to say that there's no other access for ADA at that end.
I think if you provide access in one form, you have to provide ADA access as well. I'm not sure of that, but I believe that's the requirement.
So the west end that you're talking about, it doesn't, it's not connected to other community space, so.
Well, part of the problem is not having circulation come around the building. I mean, I think the intention is obviously when you're doing Lot 4, that there'll be a means to move, those stairs, who's using those stairs then? There should be a connection back out to Deer Street. And the only way to achieve it is to develop Lot 4 and accommodate for it, or make the building shorter on Lot 5 in order to not violate the minimum driveway widths to get around the bank, right? That's why it's not there, because you don't have room for it
Currently.
without making the building smaller. So I think what we'd like to ask you to consider is putting some sort of easement on Lot 4 that will allow that to occur, and almost mandated to occur regardless of who permits Lot 4. And it doesn't mean it gets built till Lot 4 is redeveloped, but there needs to be some assurance those stairs aren't just going to go down and create a trespass issue for somebody on the walkway. And if you put a gate at the top so there is no trespass issue, then you've got a really weak pocket park that's linear that you go all the way into, and there's a big wall with a fence on it, and you have to come all the way back and go around the transformers. So I think that's the spirit of this needs some work from a design standpoint, and the circulation's really weak to get out from behind it. And I don't have the answer, but I think your best, you either make the building smaller, which is not going to be your preference for obvious reasons, or you carve out a space in the first floor to get out, but that's not your preference, I'm sure. It's to create some kind of mechanism so in the future we can make this connection.
We are maintaining egress width along that side, because
We have a 16-foot driveway, that's not a walkway.
right, in this between the.
It's 16 feet for the driveway to get in. If you can make
Yeah,
that
you can
smaller.
put an easement on that driveway, though. It will suffice as.
Yeah, if you can get a 4-foot walkway to come out to Deer Street, that would be awesome, at least for now.
Well,
I don't know that I didn't think you could because I thought the driveway was probably the constraint with the building wall, that you wouldn't make the turning radius if you actually took your setback, which is about 4 feet, right?
yeah.
And
You need to go to the building for the
Yeah,
driveway.
that's what I'm
But
saying.
as far as egress goes, you can egress the area and walk in the driveway for emergency purposes.
Well, again, that's not good community space, is emergency
It's not community
purposes.
space,
That's
and it's not
different.
shown as community space. But
Understood, but you haven't solved the problem of a long, linear, landlocked with the exception of the transformers, you gotta walk around from Maplewood Ave to come in and out of this space. I think this only makes sense to support, as Tom and I have discussed in the past, if you can get out of it without going all the way back. No one's gonna go in there, other than to have a smoke break, if you gotta go back to Maplewood Ave and you can't get out the other side. So maybe the solution for the short term is to have a easement in the 4-foot section that's on Lot 5, and you design that 4-foot easement to be a flush sidewalk like Sheaf Street for now, like we just went through on Russell, so you can at least walk out there on the driveway at your own risk and peril, but it's better than nothing. Is that making sense to anybody?
It makes
other
sense to
than
me. I guess I'm still back at the reason we put it on there is pocket park is it doesn't really fit the definition of a pocket park very well. It talks about a pocket park spatially defined by buildings. Its landscape shall consist of paths, lawns, and trees formally disposed. Minimum size 500 square feet. So you beat the minimum size for sure, but it's not like it's surrounded by buildings, and it's not like a little pocket space people are going to go into. It just looks like a linear space that you have left over behind your building. You made it a park.
Right, I mean,
Doesn't.
and in fairness, I think we're gonna give Terrence a crack at it, because it wasn't maybe a second crack. It looked weak to our eyes, as Peter is saying.
Well,
I think we
it's a
said.
work in progress, because we're trying to work it out with you guys to see what
Bump it up a
Yeah.
couple levels,
I
I
mean,
think
Nick's
we're
idea of
saying.
activating it with a path helps, but how are people going to?
What are they doing there?
Are they going to go in there? Why are they there? Like,
And what do the sides look
A
like?
bracketed covered area.
I get that on the back,
Page,
but
yeah.
we need a good visual of,
yeah.
because that wall seems a little scary with the fence on it.
So can I speak to that for a
Yeah.
second? So we're trying to solve one technical problem with the retaining wall, which is keeping all the drainage structure underground.
Yeah.
Because everything's got to be higher than the 48-inch pipe that currently runs out to the pond. And if I'm reading the comments right, will soon be a 60-inch pipe, or eventually.
Yeah, it needs to be upsized,
Yeah.
that much we know.
So we need to make sure that we're above the 60-inch pipe that isn't there yet. And the invert is at about 1 foot elevation, which is on bedrock at the Deer Street end. So we will look at the drainage structures to see if we can lower that park so that we can get better access on either end. But
I don't know that
that's
it's
the
bad being
technical reason.
elevated, it's
Yeah.
just hard for us to read. It was for
Right.
me, I'm not gonna speak for anyone else here. But I'd like to get a better sense visually of what you're proposing back there and make sure it's actually interesting at a minimum and inviting and goes somewhere. I think the going somewhere is a major component.
I don't think anybody disagrees with that. We just want to hear more from TAC about what you're looking for there.
And I agree with Nick. I think the intent is to somehow get to Lot 2, which is where the primary.
Lot 4. And,
Lot 2 all the way through. But I don't have control of
No,
Lot 3.
I wouldn't agree with that, because I
Okay.
don't think that's a reasonable constraint, given you don't control Lot 3,
Correct.
as we all know. So I think it's really about coming back out to Deer Street, so you can make your way to Lot 2. Or if you're, this is not gonna be high volume frequency use in this pocket park. But the way it's designed now, it seems like it would be extremely low. So having that circulation improved to come back at least to Deer Street, there is an alley across the way from it, will help. But I think it needs to have its own very unique, well-thought-out program and design, so it isn't just wasted space back there. So anyway.
And I think
repeating
along
myself.
those lines, the egress on that side should have a clear path to the street. Having the,
I don't think there's any doors, though, out the backside, right?
No, not on the back.
no, I'm referring to the
The
side
side.
that faces the adjacent lot. I believe there's 2 egress doors there.
Yeah, we didn't show the pads, but they would go right to that.
So his point is,
Drive
you
area.
gotta get out to Deer Street, a clear path of travel from
Yeah.
the side doors. So that would this would solve that.
Right.
Right,
So
and
there'd
I'm
be
not
an
sure
easement for
having that, the landscape areas, the 2 small landscaped areas on either side is helpful there when it comes to that. Because now you have to be out more in trouble with it.
Yeah, all right, we understand. So, and you would accept the stairway, though, at that point? I mean, it doesn't have to be ADA all the way around. It's more path of travel, correct, Dick?
from my standpoint, I think that's all you can reasonably do right now.
Yeah.
Without there being a ramp to the middle of the building on both sides.
Okay.
But that's
Understand.
just me. If you're required to do it, that's a different animal. But I think it can wait till you do Lot 4 to see if there's a way to go behind that versus out here.
Yeah, I don't know that we are required.
Yeah, I'm not saying you are.
Yeah.
I'm saying if you are.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd have to look into that further to see if it's required. If you're having any access at all, it may have to be ADA accessible.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be two-way ADA accessible. I mean, it's accessible.
Just look it
to
up.
in and out. So, well, we can discuss that with somebody from.
I mean, eventually, you're going to have an accessibility expert provide us with the accessibility plan. So maybe you get that person on board sooner than later and provide us with the code path that either allows or disallows what you're proposing.
Okay, got it. Understand. Okay. Yep. So that takes care of number 2, I think. Number 3 is confirm the 88 Maplewood Avenue address has been approved by the assessor. I think that the applicant has talked to the city's GIS consultant, and he would indicate that there are some addresses available that would be Maplewood Avenue. So we're hoping that the project can be titled 88 Maplewood Avenue. We started that request from the beginning to sort of exercise it out from the previous Deer Street applications.
I think he's GIS coordinator.
Yeah, so James
Oh,
McCarty,
yeah,
I talked to,
coordinated,
56 through 90, or 56 through 88 are available, but 88 is the only one, at least on Google now, that correctly maps to that lot. 56 to 66 all map to Steve Kelm's lot at the moment.
Yeah, he was 64, the building across the street.
Yes, 46, 64.
All right, fair enough. Okay, cut and cap the existing 4-inch water service at the gate valve of the street. We would like to use that service, so we will cut and cap the 2-inch.
One service per lot.
No,
Yeah, we're gonna use the
4-inch is the new one.
4-inch is the one we're gonna use. 'Cause
So you're
that-
going to cut and cap to 6?
No, that's the sprinkler service.
No, there's a 6 and an 8 that's for the building, new, and there's a 4 for the existing building that we had to serve the new building from.
So
Shown on the plan.
what I had, sorry, I gotta hit the other side.
You're right, though, there's a 4-inch that enters the building in the back corner, so there must be 3 over there, John.
Okay, yeah, I thought I had gotten from the Deer Street plan, so. I
Confirm with Mark.
Yep,
He's the one who put them all in with Lyman.
right. So we'll use the new ones, and we'll,
They're all new,
yeah,
but the 4-inch has to be removed because you can't have 2 water services.
okay,
You can have a fire and a domestic, but you can't have 2 domestics.
okay.
And the 3 2-inch domestics that are getting fed off that 4-inch line, if you kill the 4, it kills everything.
Gotcha. So each unit now has its own service.
That's
kind of.
right. And they're
Gotcha.
all tapped off the end of that 4,
And that's a new 4.
because we knew that was all gonna be temporary. I
Gotcha.
mean, we had to do something.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna go with the new stuff, so we'll coordinate that with
Like I
Mark.
said, it's all new.
Okay.
Dave, how do you do irrigation here in Portsmouth? Is that a deduct meter, or are we?
They were allowing irrigation meters for a while, but is that gone now?
I thought we were using more irrigation meters now. There was a period where we
So we don't know.
Okay, no, fair enough.
It's in flux. We'll get you.
If you send us an email, we'll respond with the
I can. Yeah.
correct information.
Okay. All right, so next up is the sanitary sewer. Cut and cap the existing sewer for the building. We'd be happy to do that. We don't know where it is currently. I think it goes to Maplewood because it wasn't a part of the Deer Street plan at all, so. Glad to do that.
Is there a basement underneath the Wells Fargo building?
I don't think
No,
so.
bedrock.
gotta be a sewer line or something.
Yeah,
So you gotta do some dye testing and find it?
I guess so.
Can work, and I don't know if it goes into the big main or not. It might go into the, it probably goes into the big box, John. That would be the
I
most
didn't
likely. 'cause
see
I
in
don't
the
think there
plan,
is.
though, in the plan that you just redid Deer Street, it didn't show any sewer services from that building, so I would have thought you would have come across it.
No, because we never dug on that side.
Oh.
Yeah, all the bathrooms in that current building are kind of in the northeast corner, upper right,
Upper right.
where the driveway is, the
Nearest
transformers.
Maplewood.
Yeah.
Huh?
So it looks
Probably
like,
yes.
it looks like a
Yes.
straight shotgun that way.
Yeah. So what you should do is TV the line, locate it, and then see if it's appropriate for reuse somehow.
Yeah.
You don't have to dig up Maplewood Avenue.
Right. That would be good if it was.
So we'll add that as a stipulation that you do that. So just enter from one of the toilets and TV the line and locate it, and then we'll know where it is.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep, sounds good, thank you. Confirm gas line is large enough for the new building? The new building will not have gas service.
No?
Nope.
Electric?
100% electric, yeah.
Okay.
They even called them.
So you gotta cut and cap the gas line too then?
Yep.
Yep.
It says that in the plans, it should say that.
There's two of them.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So you're eliminating them out in the street?
Back to the street?
You're gonna have to.
Yep.
Yep.
Main Street, oh my goodness. Yeah, they come around.
One's in Maplewood and one's in Deer. There's one on each.
We can get the.
There isn't a note about it, John. You're gonna have to go out in both streets and eliminate gas services
Yeah, there was a.
at the main.
There was a note
Yep.
in the demolition plan, so. I don't think we show the second gas service on Maplewood.
No, it's in there.
Okay. Grease trap shouldn't be in the driveway. So we have a H20 loading capable.
Yeah, no, it's just you can't drive over them when you're cleaning them.
Can't drive over when cleaning them. Yeah, this is, so the driveway is not for public use, it's for
Yeah, I know.
use of the building.
But it's the only parking for the building.
What's that?
But it's the only parking for the building.
It's the parking
For the building.
for the building.
Yes.
The people in the building will be able to be made aware of when the servicing is going to occur.
Oh, okay.
So, I think, and it seems to be the best place to put it.
Okay. Maybe you could hug one side more.
Yeah, it kind of is on
Okay.
one side of the driveway.
Maybe you could do a little better. We'll see.
Maybe we could do a little better. We're right up against those transformers, but we'll do a little better if we can.
Maybe. Yeah.
We can shift it the other way, though.
Put it
Yeah.
on the other side.
Yeah.
That'd be good too.
Yep.
Just so they can go around you.
Yep, we can do that.
Yeah.
Except you.
Away from the building a little bit. But anyway,
Because we like clean grease strips.
domestic service, one per lot, so we understand that.
Yep.
And we'll clean those up. Next comment is,
Talk to Mark first to make sure that you were all understanding everything before you
yeah, yep,
give him a
I
call.
will. I got a
Okay.
note there.
Yep.
Eversource conduit closer to the building, so I've shown in this plan, moving the conduit closer to the building.
Okay.
And then, it's gonna come up later, but I also show next to that, Dave, the circuit for the lights, street lights and the intersection light and button crosswalk. And I believe.
So the conduit for the lights can be close to the Eversource lights on the corner? That makes sense to dig behind the mast arm. But in general, you should show them going from light to light to light to light. That way, later on, you kind of know where they are, because every other street light in town is wired that way. It's just consistent,
Okay.
you know?
So
It's
I'll
not a
put 'em-
major trench, it's fine, you know?
Okay.
It's not like
I'll
that.
go light to light. It's
Yep.
right, it does cut through where the trees are, though, because kind of the lights are wanted to stay away from the trees, but,
Yeah, it can be right behind the curb so that it's not in the root balls.
okay,
Yep.
we'll do that. And Mark said earlier that the connection is from that box on the other side in front of 238 Deer. I think, that's what he said. I'll talk to him about that, too.
Confirmed that he meant streetlight, yes. I'm not sure the conduit went in there, but I'm not sure that I know that.
Okay. Inserted T fitting for the sewer connection, we changed the detail. Foundation dewatering will be added to revised calculations, and a dewatering plan would be provided for construction phase. All work in city right-of-way meet city standards. City will need to approve detailed cut sheets. Construction inspection will be required, understood. We added as note 11 to sheet C3. The sidewalk detail says minimum slope. It should say maximum. Thank you. We changed that. And added to note J that gravel in lieu of asphalt only applies to areas not in any public easements. And on private property. Granite curb to be 6-inch width. We revised that detail. Change slope curb to tip curb for clarity. I think that was detail I that was being talked about there, so I changed that detail. The ADA dome panels are 2 foot wide, not 3. I did add that note to detail H, and we'll change the scaling of the drawing. We just haven't done that yet. An area near the pedestrian signal push buttons shall not exceed 1/4 inch per foot. And so we're gonna have to look at that and do a little detailed work.
Yeah.
It's kind of a funky intersection there, as you know.
It is, and it's going to take some really careful
Yeah.
mathematics.
There might be like a path and a little curb somewhere in that opening.
After all the experience we had across the street, I'm sure you can handle it.
It'll be something similar. Let's see, so, the engineer's plan and the LA plans need to match up better. We will coordinate that. Basement footings, confirm that they're lower than or equal to the invert elevation of the city's drain pipe. So the basement floor is at 10. Footings are 4 feet lower than the lowest adjacent grade, which is 11.7. So that puts it at 7.7. That's in that southwest corner near the pipe. The city drain is at elevation 156. But the more important thing is you want to be able to dig that new pipe without disturbing the building. And Tom's aware of that. So
Okay.
we're going to geo-pier that side for sure. And then as the building goes towards the intersection, the ledge comes up. So eventually, it will all be piered to ledge. So you should be good.
Okay. I mean, if you can't make that building footings lower on that side, then is there any way you could sheet it?
There's the water table is about 6 feet on there, and
Yeah.
there's from the wells, at least in the geotech report, it showed there was actual flow in that part of the area.
Yeah.
So if we sheet pile it, I don't know where the underground water goes.
Interrupts the flow.
Yeah, I don't know, it's just something to think about. I don't want to take a chance of having a building subside on us.
Yeah, I think geopile is probably extremely likely. 3 of the points in the building, transformer, front corner, and Deer Street, are all going to touch ledge anyway.
Yep.
So you'd only really be getting to ledge in the back corner. That way the whole building's on the same ledge.
Okay, I just want to
Yep.
make sure that you guys are thinking about it.
No, we appreciate it, and we will, the answer to that question is yes, Dave.
Okay.
Confirm the building footings are lower than the R-tank drains, so they are. The bottom of the R-tank is about 10.9.
Okay.
Show the street light and conduit. Power
Which you
supply.
did, but
Yep.
need some.
We're going to attempt to lower the R tank, though, so it's, yeah. do some math, we'll come back.
Okay.
Confirm that conduit crossing city's drain pipe will maintain at least 15 inches of vertical clearance above the pipe. So the conduit crossing is at 9.2 top, 7.7 bottom, so I went 30 inches from that 11.7 spot grade at the driveway crossing. That's the point of conflict.
And?
And then I went with 3-inch, 4-inch, and 5-inch conduit, which is the conduit spec at the moment, about an inch, and I did an inch for outside diameter and an inch between them. I came up with the bottom at 7.7, that's how I did it, but we still have to get with Eversource and get the exact conduit
So you
design.
need to show just a detail with one of those little, hey, check this detail out when you're working right here because it's
Yeah.
important.
Yep, gotcha, understand.
Okay?
Yep. Gonna be tight, but I think it works.
And John, you had shown the pattern like this. Why can't we go like that?
Yeah, being up, instead of a,
Display the conduit.
you could do a 3 over.
Understood.
2.
Understood.
Yeah.
Just
Work it out.
think about it.
We will.
That's all. Things to think about.
Do not empty roof drains in the catch basin. Empty the entire roof into the R tanks, dissipate the first flush temperature and decrease peak flow rate. So we will revise and do that. We thought about sending some water to Maplewood and that would help relieve, but no.
You don't want any part of that, believe me.
We don't want any part of that. Okay, good enough. We will revise it then, and we'll use 12-inch roof drains instead of the 10-inch HDPE. We understand CMMP is required. The stormwater maintenance plan is in the drainage analysis. There's a short version on the plan, but we'll dedicate a whole sheet to the stormwater maintenance.
Yeah, there won't be a lot because it's mostly roof, right?
Yeah, there's the R tanks and the maintenance of the R tanks, and then there's a roof.
Is there maintenance to those things? I thought they were more or less just underground milk crates.
Well, yeah, but you want to check the inflow and make sure that it's not, going to get clogged with sediment, so.
Yeah? Okay.
You got to maintain the OCS and the inlet pipes.
Okay.
And there's an inline filter in the roof gutters that we're showing, so maintain that, and that's the first line of defense.
Got it.
We'll provide a better statement on the compliance with the stormwater regulations. Trees in the right-of-way, approved by Trees and Greenery. Mr. Parker is trying to get on the 14th.
Sure, he can handle that.
Yep.
Yep.
And watering trees, that'll appear in his notes for 2 growing seasons. The driveway location on Maplewood is not acceptable. Whose comment was that?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
That driveway's always blocked by the traffic at the signal. That's
In the queuing?
Yeah.
So
I
busy.
mean, it's an entrance only today because for the same reason, you just can't get out of there. You're crossing 2-3 lanes to come out. Or you're holding up traffic trying to get in.
When you came to us before, you had to go in and out of the parking lot, out of the other side.
Yeah, there was a bunch of reasons though. See, that side's lower and it's going to be a heck of a lot more susceptible to flooding. Also, the city wants to put in a new drain pipe, which would cut off access to the building for that entirety of that project totally. There is a driveway there now. I understand what you're saying.
That
I
drain
guess
pipe
the
won't
queuing, though, I guess we'd have to look at that. I don't know that I see queuing there. Maybe I just don't drive there because it's 7 in the morning. I don't see it or something. I don't know. I don't see a lot of queuing, but we can get some analysis of that.
Yeah. I mean, I would offer the only queuing I see at Maplewood, I live at 233 Vaughan, so I stare at this intersection 7 hours a day from my office, is when the locomotive is going back and forth and back and forth. In that case, it's queuing all the way back to Dennett. But in that circumstance, we wouldn't have any problem getting out. We would just turn right and go across. So there's 3 points over there, other than, actually there's a whole bunch of points I can show on a grid, but Eversource needs access to the transformers. So that bit of drive needs to be, that's part of why there's such a large notch in the building. But that then allows 2 cars to stage, both an incoming and an outgoing, without affecting traffic or the sidewalk. Maplewood is quite, the right of way for Maplewood is 68 feet versus 50 on Deer Street. So if you stack, or if you are waiting because there's another car in front of you, at least on Maplewood, traffic has the ability to go around you, which you can't do on Deer Street without crossing the line.
I think there was some visual,
Sight lines coming out of there, the transformers blocking sight lines. Another comment, but,
Yeah, that was a public comment?
Yep.
Yeah, we're going to look at that.
Are those
I'm sure I
transformers
agree with
staying the
that.
way they are, or are you going to have to upgrade them? And maybe an opportunity to
You don't know.
rearrange them?
Yeah. Off the top, so the little one at the corner is actually short, it's only about 3 feet high, and it's 13 feet from the curve, so you still have a 200-foot sight line in both directions, even from the lot line, never mind the end of the driveway. What we don't know from Eversource, because I forgot to ask Nick, is what voltage that transformer is. If it's the same voltage as our building, we'll just tie them into the new transformer and eliminate the little one.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But if it's 277 or something
It's going to
weird,
be a household 120, 240.
yeah.
That's what the little ones are.
What's that,
Right.
what will happen with that? Is it needed, do you reckon?
Probably not.
Be great to get rid of it.
people on that.
Probably, I have no idea what it's for.
Okay.
I think it's just powering the signals for the railroad. It's the blinking lights and the,
Okay, so they may be able to run on 120, 208.
We have the work order request in, and
Yeah.
hope to meet Eversource soon. As I'm sure you know, they're quite busy.
Yeah, no.
We'll talk about
But I don't think those signals actually run on 240 volts. They probably run on the 120 side. So they wouldn't even see a change. And you can get rid of a transformer.
Yep.
That'd be great.
yeah, and I didn't have a problem with the driveway when it was just an access for the transformers, but accessing the whole lot in and out, that's a big concern. 'Cause you're so close to the signal, and so close to the railroad tracks, it's, when, if someone does allow you to come out of the driveway, then you still have, in the through lane, then you have the left lane moving on a green signal first, it's not a good situation to be coming out into traffic at that spot. Coming out on Deer Street is a much better option as far as traffic safety is concerned. Granted, it's only 19 units, but still, it's there's a reason we don't have traffic coming out there today. It's
Yeah.
not a good spot.
so you have, just a quick too, Eric. So you're putting a new curb kit in directly across the street, but that's enter only?
Yeah,
correct?
enter only,
Okay.
correct, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick, given the site across the street, the turning left or right from Green Street onto Russell is far more dangerous than here. And the advantage we have is that if you're an owner of a building, if you look to the right before you pull out here, if the light is red, it's reasonably safe to pull out because everyone's decelerating. It's only when the light's green that you need to kind of be very careful before you make that turn.
And, yep.
But I'd say about 10% of the traffic behind the building today actually comes out there and turns right, despite the one-way sign. So,
Scofflaws.
there might be construction workers for another project.
Not for me. That would be wrong.
All right, let's come back to that one.
Yeah, I mean, you show some traffic analysis that shows it's not blocked, shows that,
So some queuing stuff would help, some
Yeah.
queuing analysis.
Yep.
All right.
but I know the traffic study that was done for the project across the street says that intersection's at a level so is F. It's not, they say it's not working well, and it's not a good place to have a driveway coming out, yep. So they probably have some queuing information in their study.
Yeah. Seems like that intersection, the Maplewood Avenue light gets the priority.
Oh, yeah, it does,
All right.
but, you also have to look out 10 years in the future and see what it's gonna be.
Yeah. Can we come look at that study?
Yeah.
Thank you. Stillwell traffic, existing traffic signal equipment. I thought I had, what do you think I'm missing?
No, I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah, there's a pole and.
There's a separate push button pole that we didn't see on the plans.
I think it's to the right of the traffic signal.
You mean the mast arm? It is to the right of the mast arm out there
yeah.
today, yes.
Mast arm
Yep.
pole. I think it's to the right of the mast arm pole. It's shown in the existing conditions, and it's shown on the, it's shown as sort of just next to the mast arm.
Why would it be right on the mast arm?
That would be if it was a button attached to the mast arm.
Yeah, but I mean,
If it's
what they're showing,
standalone-
what they're showing is that, I don't think that, right.
You don't think that's right?
It's standalone, it should be a different.
I don't think it's right, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, I think you wanted to put it further onto the lot, but the Deer Street owners told you to not put it on their land. So I
Right?
think that's-
It sounds like something they would do.
We'll check that location. Okay. But that's what you were talking about.
Yeah, just make sure.
Push button.
everybody-
Yep. How do the bike racks in the garage function? So the bike racks are vertical racks, and there's 9 feet from the wall to the edge of the parking space. I think that's enough room to work them. And then again, with the ADA requirements for the backside, we'll work on that. So there's meters currently on the street, and we show replacement. Do you want to do that, or did you want to go to a parking kiosk?
That would be a question for our parking director, but he may want to, go with the app, phone-based system as well, so
Okay.
I defer to him. I can check with him.
Okay, thank you. Yep. The parking in the basement is for the use of the residential units. 2 spaces are devoted to use by the commercial owners. We'll show communication services and city standard streetlights. The foundation will be waterproofed as part of the building design. That's it from us. Any other questions or comments?
Can you go back to that bike rack comment for a second?
Yeah.
Where is the 9 feet? I'm not sure on that. Between the wall and the parking stripe is 9 feet.
Yes. So if you look at the parking plan, C4, in the original set, you see the racks are way on the right side, and the distance from the edge of that space to the wall is 9 feet.
Oh, those?
Yeah.
Oh, I saw one that had like a note right on the heads of all the
That's our plan.
parking spaces.
We have them at the end.
Oh, I think the architectural plans are contemplating some racks at the end of the parking spaces. Is that
Yeah, it
right?
was A2, sheet A2.
Yes. Since they're tandem and it seems like a good location across the back especially.
Actually, those aren't spaces.
They are.
Yeah, I think it's up corner.
One more. There you go.
There they are.
Yep.
Yep, we had located them at the termination of the space.
So these are collapsible so that they can be flush mounted to the wall if an owner doesn't have a bicycle. But it just provides additional space for bikes at the head of the space.
We have that at Vaughn Street where
Right.
my office is, and Tom and his wife live upstairs, so we're used to those.
So would they have to move their car to get the bike down?
No, you can pull it off and take it out.
So it's not in the middle of the car, it's off to the side a little bit so you can actually reach it.
Well, it isn't like that. It's like horizontal, just.
Yeah, the bike's flat to the wall.
Yeah, it's flat to the wall.
Okay.
It's up above the hood, essentially.
You have to lift it over the
Yes.
hood?
Yeah. Are the spaces assigned?
Yeah, they're deeded.
So it'd be the same person's bike as vehicle, I assume?
Yeah. And actually, it's not in the notes, but we anticipate pre-wiring the garage for EV chargers as well. So that would be
They're
a
going to be
factor.
some big tunes ones.
It's not as bad as you might think. I'll show you my electric bill. It's not terrible.
So I've got a question. Is there a reason you guys are having two sewer services come out to Maplewood? Would it make more sense to have it, one service come out? Or one connection at least?
Yeah, so my understanding, based on past practice, is you want the residential units to have a sewer service and the commercial units to have a sewer service, so that's why we're showing.
And hopefully one of them can be reused from the existing building.
Okay.
Yep.
And then it looks like the steps coming off onto Lot 4 at the back of the building are being built directly over the gas service for the building on Lot 4.
That, there's a gas service that's being taken out.
So there's two gas services in parallel in that easement? Zach?
What?
There's two gas mains in parallel. One goes to Lot 4, one goes to Lot 5.
Yeah.
The one to Lot 5 that you're talking about will be eliminated and capped.
Looking at the service going right into the building on Lot 4.
Stairs are up here. What stairs are you talking about?
These stairs.
That curbing?
Yeah,
Where's curbing?
they are stairs.
There are stairs.
Yeah.
They look like curbing?
Yeah. They are called out as stairs. Let me show you. Those steps, 5.
Oh, they're over here.
Oh, yep.
That's those, yeah.
Then I apologize.
That's
That
a
is just
landscape over
curbing.
there With native shrubs.
I'm wrong.
No worries. Thanks.
All right.
Okay. Let's hope it's where it's supposed to be.
Oh, it was marked.
Yeah.
Nick, did you?
Yeah, so just in the spirit of giving Terrence something beyond just a circulation issue here, I'm just going to run around real quick for 2 minutes, not more. Some of the ideas I think you've already explored, but need to go maybe to the next level. What's wrong? All right. So I think that pedestrian access walkway that's maybe flush mounted for now needs to be part of the equation to get from Deer Street to those steps at the back of the building. I think the steps should be granite steps with a black metal railing that you're probably going to need to get up those steps to get to that higher elevation of the linear park. I think if you haven't already, you need to choose an appropriately scaled decorative black metal fence to go along the top of that wall. And maybe you've already done that. I just haven't had time to discern that. I think if you're going to have some kind of cistern or, I don't know what's underneath the ground back there for irrigation, I'm thinking whatever you're doing there, if there's any storage or opportunity for some stormwater storage, you could use it for irrigation on some of the landscaping out here, but that's out of my corner, wheelhouse.
The R tanks bleed water directly into the ground, so the trees out back are going to be the greenest you've seen.
As
in
long as
Portsmouth for
they're
a long
receiving
time.
that, given the distance they are, I can't tell what's there. I think you should look at opportunities for a seat wall underneath the canopy, if there actually isn't one there already. I think the bench that you look like you had on maybe a concrete pad or something with some kind of drainage thing underneath it. I couldn't figure it out. Haven't spent enough time on it. But that sort of serpentine shape, make sure it looks at something worth looking at, so people are going to use it. I think the notion of having the columnar trees, you've only got like a 15-foot strip back there. I think that's a great idea, and it works. It can work well. I would encourage you to look at like sweet gums or white oaks. They get 25, 30 feet in height, and they're only about 6 to 8 feet, maybe 10 maximum if you don't trim them in width. I just saw a whole raft of those in DC this weekend, and they're beautiful and thin. I think your walkway should be textured, should be pavers or something of a high enough quality to be inviting to go back there. I think you've got an opportunity for your residents to use that space. I don't know if you want to incorporate some kind of a dog walking place for a portion of it, or maybe there's a bocce court and less trees. You got to use that space creatively, and I know it's public access would be allowed, but the primary user of that space are going to be the people that live in your building, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I think with regard to the trees, one of the priority especially at the street end, is the horn on the train, trying to get as much as we can between the building and the
Yeah,
locomotive.
I mean,
so.
I get that, but those trees will do less than 1% sound attenuation. They're just a visual barrier, so, for the train, but not the whistle. And I would strongly encourage you to get rid of that transformer, that small one at the front, so you can take the sidewalk, run it right along the face of the building as you do now, and have a textured sort of crosswalk on the driveway leaving the garage, and you'd probably need an audible alarm like we did on Bridge Street for cars coming in and out of that garage, especially out, and not hitting a pedestrian coming out on the corner of the building. But again, carry the texture of the brick sidewalks with that heavier brick across the driveway, similar to what they did across the street at Kelm's project. And then you could run, if that transformer moves out of the way, you could run that walkway right into the walkway and sort of widen up that pedestrian refuge there at the end of the driveway. Almost done. Eric, I encourage you to work with Eric on the whole intersection thing. I don't know if there's any ability or interest or utility in having a do not block the intersection for the driveway, so someone could get in and out of there without blocking up traffic on Maplewood Ave. I'm not a traffic engineer, but I've certainly seen that.
Could you, on the HDC part, though, comment on street activation and a preference for Maplewood versus Deer? I've only heard the word street activation at HDC meetings
It's
about
kind of
50
6 and
times
1/2.
so far.
I don't think it's really, there's a discernible difference. I think there are differences you guys haven't articulated yet, because you're mulling this over about what are the implications of moving it over to Deer Street, given the grade changes from this corner to this corner. I'm guessing there's some challenges there from an engineering standpoint, but I could be wrong. If there was no difference engineering-wise between Maplewood and Deer Street, I don't see either one of them being any real different to activating the street. Certainly a curb cut doesn't activate the street. So maybe from an activation standpoint, it's better Deer Street be less encumbered by cars going in and out of the building like the one across the road than Maplewood Ave, which is going to be a lot less interesting to go in that building. You're going to get to the corner before you get the first real door to go in. But anyway, I think it's 6 and 1/2 dozen. It needs to be where it's safe enough to work. And I like that you're using tree grates instead of raised planters for your trees.
Yeah, I think it was Terrence's idea to we're running grates between the trees as well to try and get as
Yeah, a
much
little
soil
more,
volume.
yeah. Soil volume, yeah.
And try and avoid irrigation out front, but get as much water in as we can.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting, too.
Oh, good. Hopefully it works.
More soil, bigger trees.
All I got for now.
Okay.
Thanks, Nick.
Try it.
I have a question. How far from the lot line is the building from the adjacent lot?
4 feet. It's 4 feet.
4 feet.
4 feet.
But then you've also got an additional 20-foot no-build easement between it and any new structure that could be built on Lot 4. So you're, from a window glazing standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in the next iteration, just a clear indication of the egress pathway to the public way would be good.
Got it.
That I assume will require, well, may not require an easement if you have 4 feet.
Utility running up there.
Right, yeah, that's what we were just talking about.
Nick, with this public park, this pocket park, it almost lines up with the one on the other project across Maplewood, doesn't it?
Yeah, very different, though.
Yeah.
The Greenway? The Greenway that,
Adjacent
on
to-
the water?
Behind 2 Russell.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it does almost line up with that. So, and that's important. But you're going to have to go to the intersection to cross. I'll support you on that.
Do another raise.
Yeah.
Wait for the train to come, and then he's all right. We good?
Any other comments from Pat?
Just one last comment. I looked through, I'm not sure how many easements you have. None of them seem like they're very big easements. There's a revised Eversource easement that's proposed. I think that there was a note about an easement to the water meter. If we see 3 or more, we'd like to have it on a separate plan. There's at least one proposed existing drainage easement on C1 in the online submittal. If you have a document number, if you could add that to the existing ones. It just says it says on C1 existing drainage easement. It's near that drain line. So it's around that drain line I think it's on the submittal C5 today.
Yeah, the city drain line.
Yeah, so.
Yep.
Any proposed easements, though?
What's the length of the building?
If we have 3 or more, I'm
Yes.
only counting, I think I'm counting 2 right now. But as you add those, or if you find those,
Those for the team.
if
It's
we
on
have
my
3 or more, we
sheet.
want to see. It goes a lot quicker on the other side, especially those that are either where we're a grantor or grantees. We go to council, and we're trying to get those, we're trying to get out ahead of those on the timeline. We want those to be recorded concurrent, at the same time site plan goes, so we're trying to get out ahead of those easements. We've had delays on the other side because of hunting for easements, so we're looking for, when we have 3 or more separate easement plan that delineates what the purpose of the easement is, giving it a unique identifier so that on the other side, legal and our staff can find them very quickly and facilitate those to council.
Thank you. And to be clear, the sewer easement is entirely on Lot 4. It's actually not on Lot 5, but it's on the print, obviously. We can
I
make
have
that.
one follow-up question. What's the going market rate for a square foot of community space?
Don't know.
Okay.
Jeff never gave me an answer.
We just added 400 square feet to your, so you took it away from your deficit. If you put that easement and actually improve it. Gotcha. Well, it would be linked into the whole park. Yeah, it's like a sidewalk. I'd support it if you textured it and had an edge similar to the people that were here for Russell.
Right.
Want to open up, is there any public comment on this? No. All right, close that portion. And entertain a motion for further discussion.
Oh, we're not ready for planning board? Yeah, we gotta come back, so. I'll move to postpone.
On the 14th. Right there on the 14th.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Not that it matters.
Postpone.
Thank you.
On HCC.
You need a motion to adjourn?
We do.
So moved.
All right, adjourned.
You want to hold on to it?